see it.
It's like double.
I didn't see it. Raise his hand. River Preserve.
Case 2022-72, River Preserve. River Preserve is a rural conservation subdivision under Article 22 of the LDR located approximately a mile south of the intersection of SC 418 and Woodside Road. The applicant is requesting 210 single-family lots at a density of 0.95 units per acre in the unzoned area. Access is provided off of Stallings Road and Watson Way County roads. Water and sewer will be provided by Greenville Water and individual septic tanks. A traffic impact study was required and will be discussed in later slides. Here's an aerial photo of the site. This is Woodside Road looking east and west. And then Wasson Way looking north and south. The preliminary plan is before you. The project includes 2 full access points, 12 access roads with sidewalks, 210 single-family lots, 50-foot wide perimeter buffers, 2 cluster mailbox areas with parking, total of 10 total spaces, 55.6 acres of open space, 32.91 acres are required, and 18.8 acres of common area, including detention areas, stream buffers, and community amenities. 34% of the site is set aside as common or open space. Here's the zoning map and some of the surrounding land uses. The site is located within the rural character area of the comprehensive plan. The recommended density is 1 dwelling per 2 acres. The applicant is requesting a variance from LPR 22.3.5, which requires a 50-foot buffer along the external property lines. The specific request is regarding the required buffer along the parcel ending in 10510, the area of which serves as a second access point for development along Wasson Way. The second access is located on a lot with a width of 136 feet at the rear and 147 feet along Wasson Way. The required right-of-way width is 46 feet, and there's an external buffer along each property line of 50 feet. The overlap of the right-of-way into the buffers varies from 1 to 10 feet. There will be necessary grading outside of the right-of-way to get the road in. It is the intention of the developer and engineer to only disturb what is necessary to construct the road. All existing vegetation that does not fall within the necessary limits of disturbance will remain. Staff recommends approval of the variance as requested. The results of the traffic impact study are as follows. A turn lane analysis was conducted utilizing the build for 2027 volumes. Based on the anticipated build-out volumes, no turn lanes are warranted on Woodside Road or Wasson Way at the proposed site accesses. Capacity analysis indicates that all movements are expected to operate at level of service A during the peak hours under all existing and future traffic conditions. No mitigation is recommended for this development. Per the county's traffic engineer, the TIS has been updated with a 5% growth rate, which will also account for the approved Woodside Creek and Copperleaf subdivisions. The updated information is listed in table 5 on page 12 and resulted in similar results. Staff agrees with the finding of the TIS. With that said, staff recommends approval of the plan and variance with the standard and specific requirements. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. In opposition, Carol Gilly. Give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Hi, my name is Carol Gilly. I live at 130 Terry Road, Fountain Inn, and I'm opposed to River Preserve for several reasons. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. This subdivision plan violates the recognized standards for a rural conservation subdivision, the guidelines of the comprehensive plan, the intent of the LDRs, and is inconsistent with the surrounding rural character. Rural conservation subdivision standards state that 50 to 70% of the lots must be directly accessible or adjacent to usable, developable open space. This design has less than 20% of the lots adjacent or directly accessible, and only 30% if the buffer is considered. The standards also state that open space be developable or usable. In line with government classifications that came to light yesterday, the open space along the creek and river is wet most of the year and prone to flooding, which makes it undevelopable. A routinely wet, muddy space is not a usable space for residents to congregate, children to play, or for the HOA to effectively maintain. In addition, River Preserve appears to have the maximum number of lots that can be squeezed onto the only developable portion. This is the type layout in high-density growth suburban areas, not rural settings. Also, the lot sizes are inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and surrounding properties. The CP guidance is that lots in this part of the county are 2 acres or more per dwelling. The properties around River Preserve are 2 acres in size or more, but many of the lots in it are half an acre or smaller. In summary, River Preserve does not meet the recognized standards for rural conservation subdivisions, the comprehensive plan, or the character of southern Greenville County. Please deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you. James Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is James Moore, 359 Hillside Church Road, Fountain Inn. I represent the group called Citizens for Quality Rural Living. Citizens for Quality Rural Living believe this subdivision should be denied. It violates the LDR's, state, and federal regulations, damages public health, safety, and simply does not fit in the rural character of the county. There are too many issues to cover in the 10 minutes allotted for us to speak, but I'm going to try to hit some of the highlights of the detailed email memos, letters sent to the staff and the commission over the last 7 days, and we tried to deal with the recent wetlands information that became available only yesterday. Quite frankly, I'm amazed that this is even coming before this group. Can I have the plat, please? The plat doesn't show it, but this plat doesn't show it, but the one on the website shows 2 revisions after the revised deadline date of April 26th. This is the 3rd. The LDRs set that calendar, and apparently we're deciding not to follow it. I want to talk about the TIS. The revised TIS violates the LDRs. In the April SAT meeting, the traffic engineer stated the growth proposed was too low. The revised TIS shows a volume of only 320 vehicles on Woodside Road, with an increase of only 7 vehicles per day. That's the 5% you just saw. That growth projection did not take into account the traffic growth from approved subdivisions at only a half a mile each way from River Preserve. The added volume from these subdivisions will result in a total volume on Woodside Road in the area of Riverside of River Preserve of over 3,000 vehicles a day. That's assuming they each leave those other subdivisions 50-50 going each way. In addition, in the next 2 years, the bridge at Kelby Road will be out of service for replacement, forcing 2,000 vehicles a day to detour. Some of that volume needs to be considered as well. Also at the SAT meeting, the traffic engineer recommended the intersection of Highway 418 and Woodside Road, 1/2 mile from this subdivision, be included. In addition, the Cape Break Fire Department has determined that that intersection is the 2nd worst for accidents in their district. The intersection was omitted from the TIS. Highway 418 and traffic volume is over 9,000 vehicles per day. It's a two-lane road with speeds of 55 miles an hour plus. Woodside road volume will increase from less than 400 vehicles per day to over 2,000 vehicles per day after the three subdivisions are in place. A similar subdivision intersection TIS that was done for a subdivision less than 2 miles from this intersection required turn lanes adjacent to a traffic light. In addition, I have an email from the traffic engineer I received this week stating he still recommends that this be done and this body can make it happen. Finally, I'd like to talk about sight distance. At the SHC meeting, again, the traffic engineer stated the LDR sight distance must be met. The clear sight distance for passenger cars is 335 feet, and a greater distance for single unit trucks is 420 feet. I sent a picture to staff and you all on Monday that reflects that sight distance. If you look at it, there is a single unit van that is behind the tree that is less than the 350 feet from this intersection. The tree itself is at 311 feet. You don't have the sight distance, nor does the developer have an easement or own the property where the trees are. Therefore, respectfully request that this TIS be denied and subdivision be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Oh, our usual John Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier, I had sent the board members and the staff a detailed technical memorandum about the limit for all discharges, stormwater that discharged into the Reedy River. It was somewhat technical, but I think accessible. But I know you're busy, and you probably didn't have time to read it. So here is the salient points from the technical memorandum. Number one, the Reedy River is impaired as a result of too much total phosphorus. And some other problems too, but too much total phosphorus. That is because the Reedy River flows into Lake Greenville, which is a drinking water source of supply for several significantly large water utilities such as Greenwood, Commissioners of Public Works, and the Lawrence County Water and Sewer Authority. Excessive nutrients, such as total phosphorus and total nitrogen, cause the hypergrowth of algae in something called cyanobacteria, which is not algae. Algae produces taste and odor compounds that can be detected by humans in 1 part per trillion or less. For some people, it's 1 part per quadrillion. Cyanobacteria produces something much worse, namely toxins. Now, these, and I can list what they are if you're interested, but they're toxic to both humans and other mammals. It causes liver damage and neurotoxicity. It's produced by these cyanobacteria that have these nutrients of total phosphorus or nitrogen. Most importantly, conventional water treatment plants don't remove these toxins. What is proposed for total phosphorus removal for this particular project, unless there's been another change that I haven't seen, very likely, are detention basins for stormwater. Even by Greenville County's own standards, this technique for phosphorus removal is very poor. And the literature, I will tell you, multiply confirms that detention basins don't work for phosphorus removal. In my technical memorandum, I gave specific solutions that could be used for phosphorus removal. So the layout, of course, would have to change. But it's a reasonable accommodation given the public health issues that are facing us. So we don't know how a change to account for total phosphorus, how that final layout's going to look, but it would impact a lot of different things. It would be basically a separate department. Thank you, and I certainly would be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the speaker? That ends the opposition. Let's see. We'll start with Blake Loudermilk, speaking in favor.
My name is Blake Loudermilk. I represent Line J. We're the developer on the site. And Austin behind me is going to do most of the talking, but I'm here to answer any questions and try to ease any concerns.
Address, please.
304 Blackwood Store Road in Spartanburg.
Thank you.
Good evening, Austin Allen, Arbor Land Design, 49 Greenville Drive here in Greenville. I've had a full presentation prepared, but Rashida did such a good job, I'm not gonna rehash out all the same information that she spoke on. We're proposing 210 lots ranging in size from 18,000 square feet to 48,000 square feet with an average lot size of 25,403 square feet. General dimensions are gonna be 125 at the front and 200 depth. The proposed development will require the construction of 3.7 new miles of county road. That same amount will be in water construction, and the site will be served by septic. Although this project is located within a large area of unzoned parcels, the average lot size for this development will be consistent with the RS zoning. The density that we're proposing on site is in keeping with the RR1 zoning. Outside of where we are kind of within that unzoned area, we have RS, we have RR1, we have RR3 as well. But generally speaking, we're meeting and consistent with the zoning surrounding that area. Per the requirements set forth in the Rural Conservation Ordinance, this project is required to provide 15% of open space, which equates to roughly 32.91 acres of open space. We're proposing a total of 25% open space, which is roughly 22.69 acres above open space required for this development. In addition to the open space proposed, there is a 2.5 acre amenity area for any clubhouses, pools that the builder decides they want to construct on site. You also have about 3 acres of common area that falls within this right of way right there. And although we cannot count that for open space per the code, it's going to function exactly like open space. People are still going to use that the same way they would use what would be deeded open space. On this site, there are 5 locations, 20-foot wide access points directly into the open space. One there, there, and there. These are 5 specific points, although there is a lot of access points into the open space. I believe there was a comment about how many lots are actually adjacent to open space or common area. By my calculation, I came up to 102 lots. That doesn't count some of these lots that I really wanted to right here, that all they have to do is cross the road to get there. But that comes out to 48% of all of the lots are directly adjacent to common area or open space. I know infrastructure is always a big concern. The traffic impact study has been discussed already. A traffic impact study has been completed per the standards and recommendations of Greenville County's Roads and Bridges Department. That study was conducted and fulfilled based off their requirements. As stated, a turn lane study was conducted. There was no need for a turn lane at either one of these accesses. In addition to that, the capacity analysis was conducted in consideration of final build out as well as a 5% growth to the year 2027. Even with all that, all movements are expected to operate at a level of service A. And what level of service A specifically means is it's best described as operations typically represent ideal free flow conditions where vehicles experience little to no delays. So including our development, 5% growth of the area, and surrounding development, we're still functioning very well. I don't know if all of you got a chance to go right out to Woodside Road or Wasson Way, but I did today because it's been so long of a process from initial design to where we are now. I wanted to drive through the area and make sure I was good to go. If you drive down Woodside Road is actually in a very good shape. There's really no potholes, there's no cracks in the asphalt, and that's the same thing for Blossom Plain. Woodside Road is actually a 35-mile-per-hour road. There is in close proximity to our site, there's a relatively straight section, but if you get out there and drive it, there's curves, gentle curves at the beginning and the end, in addition to some pretty steep topography right there near where the creek goes by, that will help keep traffic moving slow. The best thing, in my opinion, about this site is how close it is to major corridors. So if you go about a mile north on Woodside, you're going into 418. From 418, you get 25, you get Fort Shoals Road. Half. And then about a mile and a quarter roughly to Fairview Road, so same type of situation. It's a great location in terms of access and getting to places. So it's something, I wanted to bring up for this one. In terms of internal traffic, I know there was a question brought up about site distance. While I was out today, I remeasured site distance because originally we had showed that entrance roughly right there, about 100 feet further up from where we have it now. With comments from Roads and Bridges, we wanted to provide an additional buffer from this lot here, as well as get out of that 50-foot buffer there. So it worked out in the end because we less than the variance we were asking for. But anyway, I measured site distance, and my biggest concern on both accesses was the site distance looking up this way. I quit measuring it at 460 feet, and that's only because I used a little tool that has a sight picture, and I can't keep the little laser on the target good enough. I could have went another 70 feet and still had the necessary sight distance. So definitely don't want to lose sight of that. Looking north on Woodside and looking both ways on Wassail Way, you can see much further than that. To limit or discourage unsafe driving within the development, it's been a conversation since pre-submittal meeting. We do have some long roads. What we have added is a series of chokers internally to kind of help slow things down. So especially on this road here or that road there, there's a series of chokers to kind of help mitigate that issue. The other thing that this development is providing in comparison to a lot of other developments is we work with the fire department to provide a much larger cul-de-sac radius by 5 feet to 8 in there for emergency vehicles to turn around. Sewer, as stated, sewer will be septic. I have reviewed DHEC septic codes and regulations over the past couple of days to make sure I'm on top of things. All of these lots are going to be able to meet the buffers. They will be engineered and constructed to DHEC's codes and regulations. Many of these, the vast majority of these lots will far exceed any buffer requirements that we have off of wetland. Specific areas where we still exceed the buffer requirements will be on that lot, which is 101 or 102, those two lots there, and then those two lots there. Had a really good meeting with Upstate Forever on Monday, and that was one of the things that they had discussed and expressed a concern. I went through and spoke through those measurements with them. It seemed to be a good meeting. It indicated that I'd answered their questions, so we were happy there. Stormwater is, we're going to have to design and engineer this thing to state and federal regulations. If we don't, we can't put a shovel in the ground. We, as the engineer familiar with this basin being in the region, we have extra stormwater requirements that we've got to meet for the total phosphorus. We can't put a shovel in the dirt until we meet those requirements. In terms of the floodplain, we are forced into one of our main accesses through here. I originally, initial thought was to hug that property line, but we've worked that out. We will have to get with forward floodplain. We'll have to obtain a permit for there. In addition to that, we will have to finish the floodplain study, because right now it ends about right there. So north of that point, you don't have a delineation of floodplain and floodway. So there's a lot more restrictions, obviously, in floodway compared to floodplain. We've got a wetland delineation done on this property. I received the final report Friday morning. So that's when I got the final information. When we had submitted this project, we were aware of this stream here. GIS and USGS indicated 3 potential streams here. We had this one here and the 2 there. Based off of the report, this is a wetland. this is a wetland, that's a wetland, and obviously the Reedy River is. So we have adjusted our site plan, based off of that. We didn't want to cause any confusion, although our initial design account